Channel Sports Central will be going over an NFL game preview, one of the big matchups coming up in week number 6 of this 2020 season, and that's going to be between the Browns and the Steelers. And both these teams are looking pretty good heading into this matchup. Definitely one of your bigger ones of week number 6. We got the Cleveland Browns on one side. They're 4-1 currently, best record that team has had in a couple of decades at least. And I mean, if you look at the Browns, it's been a couple of decades since they've even finished with a winning record. So it looks like the Browns are on their way to reaching that point. But as far as it goes for the Steelers are also looking really good right now. One of the best teams in the AFC and in the NFL in general. So very important matchup between both these teams here. And we're going to be going over a full preview and prediction on this one in this video, starting with your team trends. And last game, Cleveland beat Indianapolis, the Colts 32-23. Great win there for Cleveland. And of course, since the Colts are looking like a pretty decent team right now, I'd say they're a top half team in the NFL right now. And then last game, Pittsburgh beat the Philadelphia Eagles 38-29. Great win there for Pittsburgh. Of course, the Eagles aren't looking like a very good team this season, but still, a win's a win. That was a good win for the Steelers, putting up 38 points on Philadelphia. As far as your winning streaks go, of course, Cleveland is 4-1 with a 4-game winning streak. They actually lost their first game of the season, but ever since they've played really well. And then Pittsburgh, of course, is 4-0 with a 4-game winning streak, and then Pittsburgh has not lost a single game so far this season. So both teams, once again, it's kind of crazy to think, but we're already to the point where we're seeing some teams start to separate themselves amongst the group, and we're seeing the Browns and the Steelers as two standouts right now, I would say. I think both these teams are top 10 teams in the NFL right now. This game's going to be on Sunday, October 18th, 1 p.m. Eastern in Pittsburgh. Spread currently says Steelers by 3.5. ESPN FPI also has the Steelers 57%. And the Vegas kind of has the Steelers in the same fashion. 26-20 is the final score that Vegas is predicting. So all three of our sources do have Pittsburgh winning this matchup, just in kind of different ways. But the spread does say a 3.5 towards the Steelers. So yeah, it is predicting it to be pretty close, but it is Steelers win in the end. As far as your stat comparison goes, we've got 31 points per game for the Browns, 29 points per game for the Steelers. So it does look like the Browns are ahead there, but they are not ahead in the points allowed per game. They've allowed 29 points per game so far, which is a pretty high number. Meanwhile, for the Steelers, they've only allowed 22. As for pass yards per game, Browns got 206. Steelers have 254, and then for rush yards, 188 for the Browns, 138 for the Steelers. So both teams are semi-passing teams. Of course, for the Browns, you got Nick Chubb, a great running back. I mean, the Steelers have James Conner as well, but Nick Chubb has definitely been a bit of a standout in comparison to him. But as far as yards allowed go, Browns allow 313 pass yards per game, so that's a pretty hefty number for them, but they only allow 87 rush yards. And then for the Steelers, it's 273 over 66 for them as far as yards allowed go. Here's the games that both these teams have played. Of course, the Browns beat the Colts once again, 32-23. They also beat the Cowboys 49-38. That was an insane matchup. We saw the Browns up by a big margin there for a little while until the Cowboys kind of came back at the end. But still, 49-38 is a great score, especially against the Cowboys. They also beat the Washington football team 34-20, beat the Bengals 35-30, and they took a loss to the Ravens in week number 1, 6-38. That was their only loss, or that is their only loss up until this point. As for the Steelers, they've beaten the Eagles 38-29, also beat the Texans by a touchdown 28-21, beat the Broncos 26-21, and they also beat the Giants 26-16. So the Steelers have had a lot of close games, and that's a little bit concerning moving forward, but still, the Steelers team is 4-0. They've gotten wins in all 4 of their games, so I don't really think there's anything to be concerned about there, but it is something that you do have to watch out for, is that the Steelers have played a lot of pretty close games. As far as your key points, Browns off to one of their best starts. Once again, this is an insane start for the Browns. I mean, this is as good as they've been in a very, very long time. Watch out for the Browns this year. This is a team that I think has got a lot of potential to go a decent ways. They could easily make it to the playoffs this season. Steelers are still undefeated, obviously, at 4-0. They're looking like a top 10 team in the NFL. Obviously, they've played a lot of close games, but they're still 4-0. You got to look at that. And it brings up the question, is this matchup important long-term? Obviously, both teams are in the AFC, and I believe they're both in the same division as well. So it's something you do have to consider there. Is this an important matchup long-term? And obviously, since it's a divisional matchup, it already is very important. Like, you got to win your division matchups if you're going to be a good team and if you're going to make it to the playoffs. So that is something that's very important, I think, for the Steelers in this situation. Same thing with the Browns. I mean, the Browns have got a chance to put up some big damage in that division. Obviously, you got the Ravens. I expect the Ravens to probably get the win there in the end for the division. But, I mean, you also have the Browns. Watch out for the Browns, and the Bengals are looking pretty decent. I don't think they're going to make a run at the playoffs by any means, but they're looking pretty good. And then you got, I mean, you can't forget about the Steelers as well. So Yeah, pretty interesting division up in the AFC North right now, but here's what I'm expecting for your prediction. Halftime score is going to be 17-14. Steelers will lead it at the half, and then in the final, 31-24, I've got Pittsburgh getting the win here in the end. And I mean, if it was in Cleveland, I might pick the Browns just because of the home field advantage. But as for the Steelers, once again, I mean, I think they're all around the better team here. I mean, they've probably got a little more confidence than the Browns do, especially in a big matchup like this. Like, this is easily the biggest matchup that the Browns have had to play so far this season. So I think both teams come to play, and I think both teams go back and forth quite a bit. But I've got the Steelers getting the win here in the end by a touchdown, 31-24. Once again, Steelers getting the win here. But, once again, this is a very important matchup to your AFC North division. I mean, especially with the Ravens in there, and you got the Steelers and the Browns as well. Two teams that are trying to at least make a wild card position. Yeah, this is a pretty important matchup, especially, once again, in the division. Very important one here. But, that wraps up my prediction on this game. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this one. If you enjoyed this preview, slap a like on it, subscribe as well. Really helps out the channel. I'd really appreciate that. But as always, thanks again for watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central, and I will see you all later.